He's one of my favorite television writers, one of my favorite journalists, and he fights for the right things. David Simon created The Wire and has been very grateful to HBO over the years for giving him an opportunity again and again to make stuff that he cares about and he acknowledges maybe only he cares about. And then he tries to make it so interesting that other people end up caring about it. He's on the front lines here of the writer's strike. He's a reasonable Hollywood person and writer, and I want to understand what's happening around him because he's a leader in this industry, and he's leading now, and they need to collectively bargain something. Last time you were on with us, I think it was the last time, you said, I have long since stopped trusting billionaires to ever do the right thing. And
Right.
now they're coming for content, and after 25 years working for a Hallmark HBO thing, you are no longer employed by HBO, correct?
Well, I'm suspended. They may, there's, I mean, I still could end up back there. This is the result of the strike, and I'm not the only one. I mean, a lot of development deals were suspended by the various studios, and you can almost look at that as inevitable. We are in the middle of a job action, but yes, for the first time in 25 years, I'm not on the HBO payroll at present.
Your anger is a righteous one. Generally, you fight for the right things, in my opinion. So tell me what's happening here through your eyes.
Well, this isn't the first horse that they've shot out from under me or tried to shoot out from under me. I mean, I was a newspaperman, and I was there when Wall Street came for newspapers. And the premise is always the same. And it's the problem. It's the problem of sort of end stage capitalism here, which is something we're going to have to deal with. Is that when Wall Street decides money can be made, they're not particularly interested in whether or not the industry itself that they're looking at is going to be healthier or worse off or gone in a year or 2 years or 10 years. What they're interested in is the quarterly profit. And if they can juke the quarterly profit number and get the CEOs to do that, the CEOs will get bonuses and the shareholders will get money. But in the end, all the regional newspapers will be destroyed in the case of my earlier industry. And right now what they're doing is they're saying they've discovered the possibilities of the entertainment industry. And what they've decided with television and film is, you know what, if we can make these numbers quarterly, if we can get to the places we want to be right now, we'll pay those bonuses and we'll pay those investors. But they're not really looking at what they're doing to the product. And one of the first places they've targeted is the writers, because the writers are a little bit off. We're the off-camera talent. We're not the thing that you see right away, but they seem to think that things like AI or smaller writer rooms or fewer writers are going to produce better content. Same thing as they used to do with newspapers, which is, we can make more money putting out a weaker newspaper with less reporters and smaller news hole than we can putting out a better one. So let's put out a weaker one.
But Dave, you're talking about end of time stuff here with the economy and whatnot. You've been shouting angrily at the heavens for a long time about, do you realize what we're doing to freedom, to democracy, that money is contaminating everything, money has bought politics. You're right now screaming, of course I'm going to get trampled by this. I'm just a writer. Money's going to win.
Well, I mean, I'm in a strong union right now. The WGA is a union that fights. We've gone out before. The last time we went out, it was because they were telling us, oh, this new thing, the internet that we may be platforming on, we're not sure there's any money in that. And we're not sure there's any profit or any future. Let's leave that alone and let's not deal with that in this negotiating cycle. That was 2007, 2008, and we walked, and we got a piece of the internet, which is what writers have to do. We're producing all this stuff, and we want just a share of the pie. It's, we're really fighting over about 2% of the net profits of this industry. That's what the battle is going on. Where writers are trying to secure that much. So listen, the only remedy for this kind of capitalism is collective bargaining. I think if you're a worker anywhere on the planet, you should be in a union. And I think WGA is evidence of that. And I'm happy to be in this fight with them.
David, you mentioned other showrunners are having their deals suspended as well as part of this strike action. How commonplace is that in these types of
I think it's
strike?
relatively common.
Yeah.
It's relatively common. What I tweeted out about it when was I got the notice. I got my guy got the call and said he's suspended as of this date, and I happened to be walking the picket line at Silver Cup Studios in Queens. So I took a picture of the strikers in front of me, a little bit of a video, and I said, after 25 years, on this day, I happen to be doing the right WRITE thing, and sent it out. I think some people thought they had killed me, like they had basically just said, "You're dead to us forever." No, they said, "We're not paying you while you're walking the line." In my situation with development deals, it's for showrunners, it's kind of a delicate thing, which is some of what I do is writing, and it's covered by the contract, and some of what I do is producing, and that's not covered. That's managerial, and it's not covered by the contract. And there is a dispute as to what people in a development deal can and can't do without crossing the line, and it's subtle. For example, I don't change the script, but I go to cover set and I end up changing a line because the actor's having trouble with it, or I'm in editing and I need to get down to time and I need to create a bridge scene because I got to cut 2 other scenes, and so now I'm writing a new page. Those are things I can't do. Now I'm engaged in writing, but the editing and the going to set are theoretically if I don't touch the script. So there's a dispute between the union and showrunners are sort of in the middle and trying to gauge this, and most of us, I think, are trying to be honorable and correct to the union. And for my purposes, I won't go to set because I think once I go to set, I'm going to be messing with the script. So as a showrunner, I can't do that if I happen to be in production when a strike happens.
Why didn't this happen back in 2007?
Because they were trying to say that there was no money in the internet, and they should be able to stream, and there should be no residuals there, and we shouldn't have any piece of whatever. We should just stick to broadcast. And you can see the incredible dishonesty of that, the negotiating dishonesty. Now what they're saying is the exact same thing when it comes to AI. Hey, listen, we don't know if AI is going to be able to write scripts or not. We don't know if there's any money in that. We don't know if it'll be a help to writers or if it'll replace. We don't know anything about it. We're just ass ignorant, and we are the networks, and just trust us for another 3 years, and we'll come back and we'll talk about this. That's their negotiating position right now. And our position is, no, AI is here. We need to address whether or not you seriously think this is going to replace creative writers.
Your tone, I'm used to you acid and righteous anger, and you're being in tone very reasonable as a collective.
You're trying to get me mad. You're provoking me.
I hope to. I thought that was a natural condition that you were perpetually in. I thought the country.
You can't get there this time.
You know how hard it is to make you smile. It's really hard to make you smile. But as a collective bargainer,
I'm out of work.
You're more relaxed. I want to understand the business parts of this, like how each side approaches it, the strategies involved. When do you and how do you make the other side understand what your priorities are? How do you hide the bottom lines from each other? I'm curious about the business
It's a game
mechanics.
of chicken. Every strike is a game of chicken. Who can last? Look, it's not about me. I don't live paycheck to paycheck. I've been on the HBO for 25 years as a producer, so I'm fine. But workaday writers and support staff and other industries that rely on the stream of pages to sets, for them it's hard, and so that's on our side of the ledger. On their side of the ledger, they're going to run out of content, and subscribers want content. There's a certain amount that's still in the pipeline, and they can wait that out and get that on screen. But they're, beyond that, they need to continue to develop, or they're going to go stale. These streaming services and these networks are going to go stale. So it's a game of chicken. And the only thing I think that is to their disadvantage, honestly, is how angry writers are. A few years ago, a third of all writers were working at the minimum level, the minimum scale. Now it's half. Writers are actually earning less than we were a decade ago. And the reason is shorter seasons. Everything's not 22 episodes anymore. Now it's 8 or 10. Although they take longer to make, they have more production value. The writing is more complex. You're writing without commercials, so it's 58 minutes, not 43. So these hours take longer, but we're paid by the episode, many of us, and that means we're making less for doing as much work. Also, they've decided that because a lot of these shows are, the stories are not truly episodic. They're all connected as one story. Hey, why don't you write all of them? Why don't you get in a mini room, a small pre-production room, 10 weeks, just beat the hell out of it. Give us 8 scripts, and then we don't need to keep the writers around. That's, obviously you don't do that kind of work when you're shoveling it that fast.
That's a torture. What you've just described is a torture chamber for writers. Throw them into a cauldron, make them work 20-hour days.
What makes great writing? Rewriting. And they're not leaving time for that. And then once you get to set, they're all, hey, we lost this location. This actor's struggling with this storyline. This actor can't be there for this scene because their wife just had a baby. Nothing goes as you planned it. So just because you have a script in hand doesn't mean that you don't need writers on set or later in editing to write additional dialogue for looping. You need writers throughout the process. That's what makes it good. And their attitude is, no. The one showrunner or maybe one guy can do that for 10, 12 episodes. Let everybody go after the mini room. Well, not only does it making for a worse product, but here's what it's doing to the writer's life. You now need to work. You're working 8 weeks. You're working 10 weeks. And then you're off for the rest of the year.
It's crazy that it would be this corporate. It's crazy to me that they would be trying to put a value on the idea of, well, anything and anyone can be equally creative. We don't need writers. We don't need we'll just do it with artificial intelligence and we'll fool the audience. It's really insulting.
I mean, well, listen, you can fool some of the people all the time. It wasn't like 30, 40 years ago before the quote, the golden age of television, when there were so many derivative cop shows, so many derivative, medical shows, whatever. It was, you could watch Mannix, you could watch Ben Casey. It didn't matter. There was a lot of crap on TV. There always will be. And maybe we're reaching the point where AI can write that. But what AI is basically you grift this. It's basically mass plagiarism. You take every single cop show ever written and you throw it into a computer. And you create an algorithm that chews that up and delivers a completely derivative cop show back to the audience. And some people, while they're doing the laundry or playing cards and not really thinking about what's on TV, they'll be happy with that. And you'll get some viewership. But if you want television to continue to be a grown-up medium as it's suddenly become, you can't do that. It's just derivative.
David, we've got less than a minute left. Jessica, what do you have for David Simon?
We had a writer on last week, Alex O'Keefe, who's a television writer, and I was dismayed to see a lot of the comments on our Instagram post were along the lines of like, why should we feel bad for him? We're all struggling too. Why should we feel bad for these Hollywood types? My question is like, why is there so little working class solidarity among people who, like you said, could all really benefit from a union in this country?
Look, union membership in this country is down to 6%, and wages and family earnings are declining. What made the middle class in the 20th century was the fact that America got unionized. Collective bargaining is the only plausible way to get your fair share. And that's true. That's true no matter what you do. If you're a school teacher, cop, firefighter, grip, director, writer, it doesn't matter. Walking the line, on my picket line, I'm walking the line with Teamsters. I'm walking the line with IATSE, with the crew. I'm walking the line with DGA and some SAG members. Everybody realizes that this cycle, union has been made vulnerable. These people have broken a system where, we were all modestly advancing in our careers and modestly advancing in our earning power, and we've taken a huge step back in the last 2 cycles. And so that's not just my union. That's the working class unions. That's the guys driving the trucks and setting up the rigging. And they're walking the line with us in support. So that's what I'd say to them.
David, always an admirer. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the time.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
Yep. Seems like there's an opening for me, Dan, huh?